Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name's John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And we've got an interesting show today. I decided to do a sportsbook lesson on risk tolerance. I guess I subconsciously chose to wear my Bitcoin shirt today. Real good time, I think, to talk about risk tolerance. There obviously the big crypto swings lately. Also, in the sports betting Twitter universe, we had some high-profile accounts that were limited by retail sportsbook. That was discussed a lot. I'm not going to go into that controversy, but I think those of you that are on Twitter know what I'm talking about. But those two things got me thinking, hey, let's talk about how risk tolerance applies to sports betting. And it not only applies to the bettor, but it also applies to the sports book. We have to manage our risk as sports bettors. Assuming we have a profit motive, we're trying to make money. And of course, the sports book's in business to make money, so they have to manage their risk as well. So we'll talk about the varying degrees of risk and risk tolerance, I should say, and examples of such. And then we've got NBA starting on Sunday, the playoffs. The last of the play-in games is tonight. Golden State, I believe, and Memphis are playing for the 8th seed. But the NHL has really captured me for the last week or so. The playoff hockey has been fantastic. There's multiple games tonight and tomorrow, and I'm going to go over those for you. And then this weekend we have the Monaco Grand Prix in Monte Carlo on Sunday morning, and then we also have a road race in NASCAR in Austin, Texas, and I'll talk about those races. And if you're not a road race fan, they might not tickle your fancy, but I feel like there's some real good value there on both of those races. So we'll talk about those. But before we do any of that, let's do what we always do and update my bankroll. And I had a winning week last week. I probably need to stay away from the horse racing. I had crowded trade in the Preakness Stakes, and he finished a disappointing 5th out of 10 horses. $2 on win, place, and show. That's minus $6 to the bankroll. And then on last Friday, I had the Washington Capitals, and they won in overtime. Minus 104 were the odds. It's plus $7 to the bankroll. And then I had on Saturday Tampa Bay Lightning, and they won that game 5-4. And a lot of people said that was one of the best playoff games of the last 20 years. It was a very exciting game. And Tampa Bay leads that series 2-1. But that was $6 to the bankroll. So if you do the math, it's plus $7 to the bankroll, which makes our new bankroll $217 going forward. And dividing by 30, as we always do, because we're selective sports bettors and my risk tolerance is a lot lower, we're going to make our bet size $7 going into next week. So good week for the bankroll, again, being selective, and hopefully we can add some more to that and start raising our bet size again. So let us begin with risk tolerance. So understanding what is risk tolerance, it is basically your comfort level with uncertainty and or loss. So if you have a very high comfort level with uncertainty, that means you would be willing to take, a long shot. Like, for example, I had futures tickets last football season on the Packers at 35-1 and the Bills at 28-1. And that would indicate somebody who's comfortable with a higher level of risk, as opposed to betting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were 6-1 to win the Super Bowl preseason last year. I felt like their better value was on the Bills and the Packers, and of course I didn't hedge, if you remember, and that was a big mistake on my part. But that was my comfort level. I'm comfortable with betting a 40 to 1 or a 60 to 1 or a 100 to 1 shot. Other people may not be. So you have comfort level, and that applies, your risk applies to all different kinds of things. What you eat, how you take care of your body, your investing, where you put your money, but assuming that your goal of, we have to lay that down first, that our goal in sports betting is to increase our bankroll and increase our capital, so we have a profit motive. So assuming that we have a profit motive, we are going to try to figure out how much risk tolerance we have. And it's broken down into basically three categories: conservative risk, moderate risk, and aggressive risk. And I'm going to go over each one of those for you right now in different forms. So conservative risk is very low tolerance for any type of loss. This is somebody that does not really want to take on any type of risk, if at all possible. The person that gets French vanilla ice cream when they're feeling racy as opposed to regular vanilla. This may mean betting little to nothing, like using free roll bets and promos that the Sportsbook gives out. Free-to-play picking contests if you're into fantasy. I know the local Sportsbook does, in their promo with the casino cards, you can pick football games and win prizes like free slot play and stuff like that. So if you're an investor, savings bonds, bank accounts with guaranteed rate of return, bank accounts are FDIC insured. So if you put your money into an FDIC insured bank account, your money's guaranteed if the bank ever went under for any reason, but you're also guaranteed a certain rate of return over a period of time. The bank will say, we'll pay this interest rate for the next 3 months or the next month or whatever, or you can lock it in with a CD for 12 months so you have a guaranteed rate of return. So that's conservative risk in a nutshell, and most sports bettors are not conservative risk tolerant, but some people are. Moderate risk is your balanced, middle of the road, average tolerance for any type of loss. This might mean betting what you can afford to lose or following some type of bankroll management. So if you're a recreational bettor but you're still trying to make money, you can say, I'm going to set aside $300 to bet with. That's my bankroll. Or you can say, I'm going to bet with any extra money I have after I pay my bills every week. You're willing to take some of your disposable income and put it towards sports betting. So you obviously feel comfortable risking that money on a sports wager. Examples of this would be paid entry fantasy contests, like you join a fantasy football league with your friends at work or your friends from school, and you guys each put $20 in, or however you do it, or you play a paid online fantasy football contest. That's somebody with a moderate level of risk tolerance. They're willing to risk money to earn money. If you're an investor and you have moderate risk tolerance, I think a good example is a targeted ETF or mutual fund, such as like tech sector or energy sector or, growth sector or international or domestic. Less risk for the downside than the upside. So you have a diversified group of companies that you're invested one share in an ETF, and that ETF is invested in a multitude of companies specifically targeted for, growth, maybe like a bunch of different tech companies. And one of those tech companies might pop, become worth a lot of money, and the other ones might not do so much. But the idea being that the chance for the upside is very good. The chance for the downside is minimized because of the diversity. And that's somebody with a moderate level of risk tolerance. And then finally, of course, we have aggressive risk tolerance. Let it ride. No. High tolerance for any type of loss. I've heard people say that to be a successful gambler, you have to have a healthy disregard for money. I don't feel like that's a very good saying at all. I feel like sports betting is a game, an activity where they use money to keep score. I feel like that's a very good a description of how this works. And so you don't need to have a lot of money to be a sports bettor. There's no, unless you're chasing clout or whatever, just to do this activity, enjoy the puzzle of sports betting, you don't need to spend a lot of money. However, somebody with an aggressive risk profile might mean following an aggressive growth bankroll plan, such as Kelly criteria betting. And we haven't really done a full episode on Kelly criterion betting, but that's in a very mathematical formula for aggressive bankroll growth. And the problem, it's used for stock trading a lot, but the problem with sports betting is that it's a binary outcome most of the time, which means your bet's either going to win or it's going to lose. So if it loses, your return on investment is zero. Whereas if you invest in a stock and you lose on the stock, you might have bought it at $100 a share and sold it at $85 a share. You didn't lose everything. You lost 15% on your investment, but you didn't lose everything. Whereas you place a $100 wager on a football game, and the outcome is either win or zero. So it's a very risky strategy, Kelly criterion betting, especially full Kelly betting, but it's designed to help maximize your perceived edges to grow your bankroll. An example in fantasy of an aggressive risk profile is the Millie Maker contests. They have these $1 million fantasy football contests every week online. They're usually like $20 to join. And if you don't finish in the top 5 out of hundreds of thousands of entries, you make a very small amount of money. The idea being the person that finishes number 1 makes $1 million. It is a very high risk type of investment. I never liked playing those when I played fantasy full time. I feel like it's not a good investment. I feel like playing a smaller contest where you might have 4,000 or 5,000 entries to compete against gives you a legitimate shot at winning a very good prize, something with a different payout structure. But people are attracted to those, just like they're attracted to 10 or 14 team parlays. They want a chance to win $1,000 with a $1 investment. High risk profile. Not afraid to lose that dollar. I understand that. That's great entertainment value. But if, again, assuming your goal is to increase your capital, to increase your bankroll, to make a profit, not a good way to spend your money. And then in the investing world, aggressive risk, obviously cryptocurrencies are a great example of this. High swings, high risk, high reward. If you followed Bitcoin for the last year, it went from, in the last 9 months, from $18,000 all the way up to $60-something thousand, and right now it's in the 30s. It's been a tale of high swings and variance and crushing paper losses for a lot of people. One of the issues with cryptocurrencies is that the traditional investment community doesn't understand a lot about how cryptocurrencies work. And then there's also a lot of uncertainty because of how the government may react or try to regulate cryptocurrencies. And each state, each government has its own ideas. So it's the wild, wild west out there right now. And it's a very high risk way to invest your money. And I think cryptocurrencies are fabulous, and the blockchain technology is going to be very important in the financial communities going forward. Whether decentralized currencies are going to remain popular remains to be seen, but they are good investments, I believe, and it wouldn't hurt to get a little skin in the game, and it might help you understand how they work a little bit better. Okay, enough off of my soapbox there. But that's aggressive risk. And I want to also talk about as we try to figure out our profile, our risk tolerance profile as a sports bettor, let's look at how the bookmaker assesses their risk tolerance. So different sports books have different levels of risk tolerance. I'm not going to call out any specific sports books, but in the U.S., all of these new sports books that are opening up are very wary of experienced sports bettors, people that want to bet, markets that might not be on the board, or people that might want to place large bets on specific games, and it's very different how the books respond. And obviously in Vegas, they have a mature sports betting market. They've been there for 50 plus years. They're a little more lenient towards the type of risk that they'll accept. But let's take a look here at the different types of risk tolerance books. Conservative risk books will have smaller limits on wagers or limit offerings in certain markets. I've been to our local sports book here. I've tried to place wagers on Aussie rules football. They won't let me. They don't offer that market here. I have placed a wager on a baseball game and was offered a reduced amount on my wager at the kiosk at the sports book, which was the only time that's ever happened to me, but I was kind of surprised because it wasn't a huge amount of money. I just feel like that particular game, the book maybe just had too much risk on one side and didn't want to take any more substantial money. Not like my bet was substantial, but they didn't want to take any more money on that side. But that has happened. I've also been to another sports book in upstate New York where I cashed three $50 wagers that all won, and I had my picture taken at the counter, so they were obviously taking a risk profile of me. I did not have to give my name, but it was very unsettling that I just placed a couple of wagers basically for fun and have been risk profiled. Moderate books will try to accommodate most bettors with higher limits and more offerings. So your middle-of-the-road sports books will try to do a larger variety of markets. They'll have, first half, second halves, quarters, over-unders, player props, futures. They'll take, higher amounts. They might have their limits posted conspicuously. We'll take 1,000 on a side. It's not uncommon for sports books to take no more than, $250 on a college basketball game or a total. You might see that, but they might take 5,000 or 10,000 on an NFL game. But you'll see that the middle-of-the-road sports book will be more in line with other established sports books as far as catering to the customer. And then aggressive risk books will offer a line on most anything and accept sharp action. They may also offer reduced juice on wagers. So they want to make up for the hold percentage or the vig that these other retail books are charging by doing more volume. And in order to invite more volume, they have to offer lower hold percentage, and they have to offer more options, and they have to welcome more action. And in Las Vegas, Circa has the reputation of being the book that's most friendly to sharp bettors. And offshore, there's a couple of sports books that are very friendly to professional action. If you can, find a way to fund your sports betting activities. I don't bet offshore at all these days. But that, if you're looking for a sports book that has an aggressive risk profile, that is definitely the way to go right now until our U.S. market matures, and then hopefully we'll have more companies come in and more offerings. Competition can only help the consumer, assuming the government doesn't get involved too much in the market and restricting the types, the type of business the sports books can do, without getting into a whole diatribe about this. Say the governments regulate, we need to have X amount of dollars of profit from our sports books every year. So that way, that will mean the sports books will not be able to offer lots of different things. They'll have to have very high VIG or high hold percentages, and they will, limit or exclude anybody that's not profitable for them. So, we hope in the long run that any legislation that the government gets involved in with sports betting is a consumer bill as opposed to a industry bill that benefits the industry and not the player. So that could change the landscape tremendously. But enough about the politics of it. But just keep in mind that the bookmaker is in business to make money, and they have risk tolerance just like you have risk tolerance. And you need to be aware of that when making your wagers. So you might find a better book than the one you're using now. That's kind of what I'm saying here. So let us move on to the weekend in sports, at least what I'm going to cover. And Friday night, NHL, 4 games. The first round of the NHL playoffs is usually the best. It's just there's so many games going on at once. They're so intense. We're going to start with the Capitals and the Bruins. Game 4, Bruins lead 2-1. Every one of these games has gone to overtime. Samsonov and Kuznetsov are back for the Capitals. I feel like, these games have all been so close. The last game, Bruins won in double overtime. How can you not take the plus money in that situation? I know the Bruins have won games 2 and 3 as a slight favorite. But I would take plus 140, 150, 160 any day in a series this tight. There's no question about it. So I feel like the Capitals are just as good as the Bruins. Samsonov played really great in Game 3 until that mishap in the second overtime. But he's definitely a step up from Anderson or Phoenix Copley. So let's move on to the Hurricanes and the Predators. The Predators are at home. They are what we thought they were. They played tremendous over the last month of the season to make the playoffs, but they're facing a completely healthy Hurricanes team. I don't think minus 139 is a bad number to lay on the Hurricanes here. I think there's better value on the board, but I like the Hurricanes to possibly sweep this series. UC Saros has been good, but they're just up against too much. I just don't feel like Nashville has enough offense to win a couple. They're going to have to score like 4 or 5 goals to win a couple of these games, and I don't think that's going to happen. I like the Hurricanes. Jets at the Oilers. Remember, in Canada, there's no crowds. Their COVID situation is much more difficult than it is here in the States. The Jets won Game 1. It was deceiving. It was 4-1, but it was a 1-1 game till about halfway through the third period. The Jets played without Nikolai Ehlers, and hopefully he'll be back, and Pierre-Luc Dubois will be back. The Jets have the better goaltending here. There's no question about it. They're just going to have to stop McDavid and Draisaitl. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is a 4-2 series, whichever way it's going to go. Hellebuck is the best goaltender in the North Division. He's going to have to steal at least one game for the Jets. I don't think this is the one, but I don't think there's value on the Oilers at minus 175, so I'm passing on that game. And then the Avalanche at the Blues, minus 235, Blues plus 200. I don't know if the Blues are going to be able to win a game in this series. The Avalanche are just playing so well. They've got Grubauer back. He's going to be a big piece for them going forward. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt again. I actually like the minus 1.5 if you're going to take the Avalanche here. I think it's at plus money still. It was plus 120 this morning, but it's less than that now. I would, like I said, there's better value on the board. But, you like the Avalanche to win this game. The Blues could win a game in this series, depending if, the Avalanche want to rest up or not. I don't know. I feel like the Golden Knights and the Wild have a tough series ahead, and they might want to try to finish up and rest. So, definitely, Avalanche are playing like the Stanley Cup favorites right now, in my opinion. There's only one or two other teams, I think, that will be there at the end. The Hurricanes and Tampa Bay, I think, are going to battle it out. And I feel like the Washington-Boston winner is probably going to make it from the East. All right, Saturday NHL games. We've got the Panthers at the Lightning. The Panthers came back from a near-death sentence with down 5-3 in the third to come back and win 6-5 in overtime. So they get another game at Tampa Bay on Saturday. Not a bad number to lay on the Lightning. The Lightning have the better goalie. Bobrovsky could fold like a cheap suit at any time. This is another one of those situations. The Panthers do have the talent to score 4 or 5 goals on the Lightning, but they're going to have to put up those kind of numbers to win this series. They're going to have to score at least 3 goals for each win that they need. So the big question is, can they do it against Vasilevsky? I don't think so. I really don't. Penguins at the Islanders, they have it as a pick'em game. This series has been so close. It got very nasty and chippy. The Islanders just have not scored. They're missing Anders Lee, and he's their go to the front of the net guy. That's how you score goals during the playoffs. Deflections, screening the goalie. They're missing that. They need that from somebody. But they've got to, if Islanders can get a 2-goal lead, they could go in their shutdown mode and really do some damage. I feel like Sorokin is the better goalie here. I was very disappointed they went with Varlamov. See what Barry Trotz does. I feel I like the Islanders if they go with Sorokin. Otherwise, I like the Penguins. The Canadiens at the Maple Leafs. I said in my previews that the Canadiens would give the Maple Leafs trouble, and they sure did. They won game 1. I don't know if they're going to win 2 in a row. Carey Price is back. Danault is back. Brendan Gallagher is back. We don't know officially how healthy they all are, but they all played in game 1 and seemed to play without any issues. And, of course, you could argue that the Maple Leafs lost their second best player, John Tavares, with that weird injury. I hope he's okay. They're going to have to go on without him. They've got plenty of veterans to take his place. They got plenty of kids to take his place. The Leafs are stacked, but I don't know if they have the goaltending to go deep, and they just seem to struggle against the Canadiens. I think Canadiens won 6 out of 10. They played 10 during the regular season, something along those lines. It's the Canadiens getting plus 155 is tremendous value, but I feel like the Maple Leafs probably come back and make a statement in this game. I could be wrong. We could be in for another nail biter, but I would have to go probably 165 or 170 for me to take game 2 with the Canadiens. And then the Golden Knights at the Wild. This is a team where the Wild has given the Golden Knights problems all season long. And the Golden Knights were able to win game 2 5-3 after losing game 1. And now they go to Minnesota. And minus 120, I think, even though the Golden Knights are on the road, they have the better goaltending by far. I'm just not a believer in Cam Talbot. Fleury probably gets the start, but if he has any issues, they can go right to Lehner. They have 2 number 1 goalies. That gives any time you have. I mean, these teams are pretty evenly matched. Because Pacioretty is the Knights' leading goal scorer is not back. If he does come back, that definitely gives an edge to the Golden Knights. But if these guys are basically a coin flip or close to a coin flip, I'm going to go with the team with a better goalie. And that is by far the Golden Knights. So I think that that's a great number to lay on Vegas on Saturday. So we'll see what makes my picks. I want to talk about a couple races real quick. The Monaco GP in Monte Carlo is this Sunday morning. We've been riding the Lewis Hamilton train. He's won 3 out of the 4 races so far. And this really baffles me again. I know the people that set the markets are smarter than I am. I'm not saying I'm smarter than the market, so please don't interpret it that way. But Max Verstappen has never finished better than 5th in the Monaco Grand Prix. He is the betting favorite currently at plus 130. And he has actually not moved at plus 130. He's been there all week long. Lewis Hamilton, however, has gone from plus 110 to plus 160 to now plus 175. And that really mystifies me because he's won this race multiple times. Now, if you're not familiar with this race, it's in the streets of Monte Carlo, or the streets of Monaco and Monte Carlo. There's very little passing place. There's very little room to pass on this course. So the race is going to be a one in the pits for sure. And we know from watching the last 4 races that Mercedes has better pits, better pit crew, and better race strategy than Red Bull does. I think the drivers are very close between the car and driver combinations. I think the Red Bull car might actually be a little faster, but Lewis is cleaner in the Mercedes, so their times are very close. And either driver could be. So whoever wins pole is going to be very important. But also, they have to use 2 different kinds of tires in the race, so they have to make a pit stop. So everybody has to stop, and Red Bull has lost a lot of time in their pit stops all season long, and I feel like that favors Lewis Hamilton. Everybody else in the field is at least 7-1 or much higher, 10-1 or higher. I feel like unless there's an accident, there's really no chance for anybody else to win this race. But how can you not go with Lewis Hamilton? I said Lewis Hamilton plus money. I'll take him every time, and I'm going to take him again this week. And then finally, we have a NASCAR race in Austin, Texas at the COTA track. It's called the Circuit of the Americas. It's where American Grand Prix has been held recently. They have not raced at this course before, but it is a much roomier track than the Daytona road course, which was won by Ryan Blaney, of course. Chase Elliott is considered far and away the best road racer of the NASCAR regulars. Martin Truex is considered the second best. Everybody else in the odds is at least 10-1 or higher. These 2 drivers have won 7 of the last 8 road races. And I feel like it's really good value to bet on. I usually stay away from betting on a driver that just won the last race because it is so hard to win 2 races in a row. But because this is a road race, Truex won at Darlington. I feel like that's good value. So I like both of these drivers. Everybody else is a long shot. You could probably throw in a couple of long shots for a couple of bucks here and there if you wanted to add a couple extra runners for your viewing pleasure. But I feel like that's where the value lies if you're actually looking to cash a ticket. So let's get right to my picks, and we'll wrap it up today. I'm going to take on Friday the Capitals money line plus 143. That series has just been fabulous. Would not be surprised for another overtime game. Very excited to watch this one tonight. I'm going to take the Golden Knights tomorrow at Minnesota, minus 120. I expect superior goaltending to prevail. I don't expect it to be easy, but I feel like that's a very good number, and I expect that the Golden Knights will probably be minus 130, minus 140 by the time the game starts. I'm going to take Lewis Hamilton in the Monaco Grand Prix plus 175. I've already talked that to death. Fade me at your peril when it comes to Formula One. And then I'm going to take a half unit each on Chase Elliott and Martin Truex in the NASCAR road race Sunday afternoon. Looking forward to watching that. It's a new track. There's really no history to go on. So it should be fun. And enjoy the weekend. Next week is the Indy 500, one of my favorite events. I'll be talking about that, and I hope you tune in for another episode. So thanks for spending some of your day with me, and I'll play the outro music for you. Let's go get some winners, everybody. Take care.